Hey, hello everybody. This is Marcus Kriba with Bizionaries, and my guest Brody Atherton has joined me. He is the owner of Blue Creek Construction, and he is also a member of the Spring Bay Fire Department. He's from the Spring Bay Metamora area in Illinois, and he's going to school right now to be an EMT and eventually a medic if things work out. But currently, he is doing landscaping and construction work, and that's how I met him. He actually came to the lake house that Kim and I bought as an investment property and place to live, and he's come and helped us increase the value and appeal of it. So I've been super impressed with Brody. How old are you, Brody?
Just
Just turned 20, and been super impressed with his drive and just his ability to go get it regardless of issues. And I've been very impressed. And I thought his story and the way that he does business and the way that he thinks about business and life in general could be inspiring to some of us. So, with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So, thanks for being here, Brody. Appreciate it,
no
man.
problem.
All right. You're obviously super busy. I see you on social media with all the decks and fire department and everything like that.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, what's your current schedule look like? Like, what's your normal day look like?
Lately, it's been a little bit more relaxed, but normal schedule was usually getting up about 6 o'clock, sometimes 5:30, depending on if I was going to work out in the morning or not. And then I just go get started, working whatever, go to the job, go to Menards, whatever I'm doing for that day. I'd usually work till about 4 o'clock or so. Um, Mondays and Thursdays I have EMT class. Thursdays I have department meeting at the fire department, and then I run calls all through the night whenever I can. So typically I'm usually busy just about every hour of the day. I'm usually doing something, and then any free time I have, I'm usually at the gym or doing some kind of I guess self improvement work really. Um, so yeah, I try to keep myself pretty busy though,
That's
for
huge.
sure.
Well, and then even on the weekends, you spend at those at the fire department, don't you?
A lot of times I'm at the fire department. Hunting season's coming up, so that's going to take up a lot of my time as well.
Sure.
Um, just got to have some hobby time, I guess.
Absolutely.
But
You got to keep a balance, man. No, it's
yeah,
good.
yeah, that's what starts in October. So
Good. Well,
typically, that's
I know that for a fact, like whenever you were coming here and working on the yard and the wall and that kind of thing, that there would be times you're here at I don't know, it depended on the day, somewhere between 5 and 8. But
yep,
like you would tell me, like, oh yeah, I was just on a fire department call at 3 o'clock in
yep,
the morning for some collision or something, and that you were still here at
yep.
whatever first thing in the morning to get stuff done. So that was super impressive. The amount of time that you're dedicating to things that are meaningful to you. I'm assuming, is that
Yep.
true?
Yeah, yeah. No, it's been definitely a huge experience. The fire department was something I didn't expect to enjoy as much as I did. And I started doing it, and it just really clicked. And that's kind of where I found a lot of passion. And then, I mean, you still gotta have work, so I'm still working and doing things I like doing when I'm working. So that helps keep again a good balance. You
Nice.
know.
Yeah, absolutely. So what got you into the fire department? I assume that's not a paid position. That's just
Yeah, no, it's all volunteer. So I was at the Pumpkin Festival in Morton,
yeah.
and I was just kind of talking to my mom, thinking about like some other careers and stuff because I knew I didn't want to be doing labor my whole life. It's what my whole family's done, and I mean it's done well for them, but it's not an ideal situation to be in, I guess, for a long period of time. So I was kind of thinking about other ways to get out of it and everything else. And one of my buddies, Drew Rubel, had mentioned it to me, and so I called him, talked to him about it for a little bit. He's like, "Why don't you just go? You live in Spring Bay, just go join the department, see how you like it." So that Thursday was like the next day, actually. I think I went and I talked to Dennis Perry, the chief, and signed the application, and that's where all that started. Um, And then it just kind of developed into like, I think I could do this as a career, because I always kind of looked at medical field as like a huge option, but I haven't grown up or put myself, I guess, in a situation where medical field was like a plausible option, I guess, money wise.
Sure.
I can't join the military because of health issues, so that kind of put that out of the picture. So it was just kind of like, well, that was always that was never an option until I thought about it, and I was like, well, that'd be huge. You know, it's an easy way to get in the medical field, and it's a more direct, I guess, way to make an impact. So that
Right.
was kind of
It sounds like you're making an impact right now, from,
trying anyway.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, just from the stories you've told me, from the little bit I've heard, it sounds like you are. So I think that's huge and it's super commendable. Giving your time voluntary while you're, busting your butt on a daily basis to make income. So,
The
yeah,
community down there really helps it out. I mean, it's a great group of guys. It's a great staff, so it definitely helps with everything. I mean, there's some departments that are volunteer that struggle, but we don't really have any problems. Everybody gets along, and just try our best to help everybody as best we can. So,
cool, cool. With that in mind, what, I want to hold off on that. I guess one of the things that I want to kind of hit on is with the number of balls that you have in the air. Um, there's obviously an internal drive that must play a role in your daily life and what I would call the road to success. Can you tell me like what keeps you motivated? What helps keep you consistent on this kind of thing?
one thing I mentioned the other day, I was thinking about it, was like when I was in high school, I always said like the phrase like just 2 years. It's 2 years of grinding, and that started off with 2 years of grinding to be a lineman because that's what I wanted to do for a while. And then it was 2 years for this, 2 years for that. And I've always kind of said that. I just
Yeah.
always say it to myself. And then when I turned 20, I was like, it's not really 2 years anymore. I could be on a department in a matter of like 11 months now. So it was kind of a realization, but like I'm not gonna stop telling myself that, because once I get on a department, there's still a lot of work to be done. So it's just always been kind of a 2 year, 2 more years kind of mindset, and then hopefully things will be where I want them to be. So it's kind of weird, but that's just it.
Oh,
Started in high school, and I've just stuck with it. So
I love it. I think, maybe I'm not, hopefully I'm thinking about it right. But to me, it sounds like you're, chunking down the big life goal into manageable, 2 year chunks,
yeah,
and
it's
maybe,
always been kind of like, like if I, 2 more years of hard grinding, and I'll be at a more, ideal spot. It's just always been that,
yeah, 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 because instead of just,
eventually we'll be there, but if I just keep saying it, it doesn't seem like it's so far away. So
right. Well, instead of saying, hey, I want to be a millionaire by the time I'm 50, that seems so far off. What kind of action steps are there? You're breaking it down
yeah,
into 2 year chunks. It sounds like stuff you can make a difference at. I love
yep.
it. So, you know, um, I'll go back to that question too. But one of the things that I want to kind of touch on, because I think it was super special because you and I've talked about this before. How did you get started into the construction and landscaping business?
So it was kind of it was kind of it was a really slow start. Like I told you, the first job I did was shoveling a wheelbarrow, and I moved some mulch. That's what I did. I think I made like 250, $300. It took me like a week, but in high school that was huge money, and that kind of started off as my dad came to me and was like, "Hey, this is always a thing you can do." It's kind of the same situation that his dad did. His dad gave him a rake, a construction rake, concrete rake. Told him, this is what you got. Make money with this, or find a different way to make money, kind of deal. So it was a very similar situation. He sent me off and dropped me off with a wheelbarrow and a shovel, and that's kind of where I started. And then just slowly grew from there. I was talking to a guy just the other day, actually, about kind of how, actually it was today, about how slow it started, and because he was asking about his yard getting mowed, and I was like, well, if I, when I was doing that, because that's another thing I started doing in high school. I was like, well, if I was doing that, it would probably be about 20 or $30. And he's like, well, the guy's charging me 80 right now. And I was like, yeah, I've kind of been known to undercharge people until as. But it was always just like short milestones, really, and I was happy with the money. The people were happy with the outcome, obviously, because I was mowing their yard for $20. But it all ended up working out, and it just started off small and really just building on that. So
Absolutely. But so, I mean, like, just to frame that, and the way that you told it to me the first time was like your dad came to you and you're like, I don't know if he gave you the shovel, like this $14 shovel or whatever. And it's like, here, go make money with this. You can always
yeah,
make money with this thing. And
yeah,
so,
that was,
is that true?
that was huge picture with it. It was kind of like, yeah, he handed it to me. He's like, this is where I started. It's a good place to start. Kind of go see what you can do, and if it's not something that works, it doesn't work. But it was a good starting spot, and it ended up working. So
Well, and I think in a time, and not, I don't think that we're oversimplifying this, but there's a lot of stuff, even me, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people that want to be entrepreneurs get into analysis paralysis and all the details and
yeah,
to be all this complexity. And you got a shovel and you
yep,
start a business. I mean, it's that simple.
yeah. I
So,
mean, the startup cost was $120. I had a shovel and a wheelbarrow. That was it.
yeah,
So it's you can't complain about it really. Like you said, you get into too much looking into your projections and everything else. I don't worry about that. I haven't even looked at how much money I've made this year. I looked at it a while ago. I haven't looked at it in months. I don't care. It is what it is. I can't change that. I don't know how much I'm going to make this year until I do my taxes.
sure. But to put it in perspective, based on what you and I have talked about, um, I think, this was a few months ago. You were talking about a certain amount of cash you had set aside, and you're deciding whether you wanted to buy some rental properties or put up a building. I mean,
Yep.
if you feel comfortable sharing, I mean, where are you at today? Do you think that as a 20-year-old that you have, you know, from this business and all of your other dealings, where do you think, if you're comfortable saying where you're at right now?
Yeah. So right now, I've kind of veered from looking at rental properties right now because as I'm noticing in kind of the area is that the demand for it's starting to go down a little bit.
Hmm.
Uh, it was up really high and it's starting to go down. Same thing with property prices; they're still up, the demand is down. So I'm kind of waiting for all that to kind of regulate itself out. Same thing with building and stuff like that. There's just a lot going on with that. So I just opened up a Roth account and I maxed that out for the year. I plan on doing that every year. And then my brokerage account, I'm probably going to put a big chunk of my money into that because I can pull that out anytime I want to, but there's no sense in not putting it somewhere.
Sure.
I've been looking and I think I'm going to wait till January around there and see what the market's doing. But I think that's when I'm going to be putting a lot of my money in. Um, I was I mean, I'd say I'm probably still projected somewhere close to what I was thinking of. Like I said, I really haven't looked. Um, Definitely have made a lot more money than I made last year for sure, by a significant number. I made last year in 3 months. I think I made 20,000. I think was kind of my profit. That was just the end of the year kind of push, and I made that in 1 month this year. Uh,
Yeah.
so that was huge. That was a really big month. That was a lot of work in that month. But I mean, there was some ups and there was some downs. There was some stuff I kind of thought like, that wasn't worth it. And there were some other things that were like, I was, super worth it. And one of the jobs was something that somebody came to me with. They were like, can you do this for $3,500? And I was like, yeah. And I think I did it in a day, and I didn't buy anything. It was just, I did it. They handed me the money and that was it.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's, like I said, there's always successes and there's, you have some big downfalls and stuff like that. And there's jobs where I finally get out of them and I'm finally done and I haven't made a dime and that's how it goes. But it's been a pretty good year.
Yeah. But in the end, you're coming out ahead.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
And not ahead in a small way. I mean, you just said you maxed out what you could put into a Roth account.
Yep.
I mean, that's and amongst the other things that you did with the additional money. So for a 20-year-old, I mean, that's super impressive. That to me says that this business is working very positively. How long have you been doing this business? You say, when did you start?
Uh, okay, I got an LLC last year, but I've been doing this stuff since I was like 14. I
Yeah.
started helping out with concrete, started doing small stuff and here and there and whatever. Started really doing it when I was 16. I started doing more landscaping and a lot of mowing. Uh, and then 18 is when I switched kind of to carpentry, and then I've just been riding that out. And it's been great. The landscaping and stuff was fun and whatever, but not not nearly as worth it. So.
Yeah. Well, with that in mind, so I mean, you've had a lot going on, and I've seen, times when you've been stressed out. I've seen like how much you've got going on. What is it? Do you do anything proactive to avoid or hold off burnout?
Burnout has been a big thing recently. I've been noticing that it's, in previous years and stuff, I haven't really had it, but recently it has definitely been a thing where I'm kind of like, I'm just getting tired. It's getting a little, every once in a while, it's a little harder to get up, go to work, or whatever. Um, it hasn't become an issue enough yet that I've really looked into it. If I need a break, I've been taking breaks. I haven't been overworking myself like I was before. But I've gotten to a point this year where I'm pretty comfortable. It's just kind of going with the flow and getting stuff done as I can. And I work by myself most of the time, so that's nice. If I can't do it by myself, I can't. I gotta have somebody help me and whatever. So just trying not to overstrain myself really has been a big deal kind of this year.
Yeah.
Well, not this, but as of late anyway.
Well, and then I think that kind of goes in part with what I've seen. I mean, landscaping, carpentry, mowing or whatever, that requires a lot of labor. And it's one thing that I have not seen you be afraid to put in. Like, it seems like you're, maybe you're doing more now than maybe you will do in the future. But from what I've gathered, you're not afraid, to work. And
Yeah, no, it's not. I mean, it's kind of a natural thing. It's just in family. I mean, it's what we all do. It's just kind of always been a natural thing, and don't like sitting around. So
yeah,
keep on
well,
our tips. This is the gist of it. Yes.
yeah, no, I think it's a breath of fresh air, and that kind of leads me, those two things lead me to, how you handle very tough situations. I know whenever you're working on my project, and when I post this video, I'm going to post some before and after photos of, you know, how you helped improve the appeal and value of this place, so the viewers can, see some of the work.
Yeah.
But
Appreciate that.
yeah, absolutely. So I know that I would come out and talk to you. You show up and you're waiting around on some delivery, and like it's days late, or whatever, or the stuff that you got wasn't the stuff that you ordered,
Yeah.
and I would come talk to you, and I know people that would just have been irate and through the roof, or try to put on a show for the customer, like, hey,
Yeah.
and you were super like laid back, and it's like, you know what, it is what it is. We're gonna work it out. It's gonna be fine. And I was
Yeah.
super impressed with that level headedness. Where do you attribute that?
Um, I don't know, because I definitely can't put that on my dad. That's that's really been just kind of I don't know. I guess it's probably just been like a developmental kind of thing. Is it's just uh I don't know. I've became very laxed. Uh, like in the last couple of years, it's just kind of it is what it is. It's kind of sometimes it's not a great thing to go by, but it's usually what I default to, just because it's like, well, there's not much I can do about it, so I just kind of try to avoid it and
Well, I
ignore
think
it.
I think there's some wisdom that a lot of people don't find until their older years, that it's not worth worrying about things you can't control. So
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing, like I said, there's nothing I can do about it. It's not worth my energy to sit there and fret about it or whatever. It's another thing too I did for a while was like I can only be stressed out from it was always on Saturday, and it was from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock. That's my stress time. If I need to be stressed about something, it's on Saturday.
really,
You know,
you schedule your stress time.
yeah. I if something happened, I'd get mad about it for about 10, 15 minutes, get upset about it. That was it. I'm done. Not worrying about it anymore. I got to move on. I can worry about it Saturday. That was kind of what I did for a while.
That's impressive. I've never heard of that before.
It worked. Definitely worked. But then I started enjoying my Saturday. So like, I decided to do this.
That's awesome. Well, that's interesting. I'll have to think about that because that's, like I've actually talked to, in my life, I'm 52 years old and I've been through a number of things, and some of those include, what I call fine tuning and
Yeah.
fine tuning your mental abilities, and sometimes that includes like talking to counselors or whatever. And counselors are like that. You know what? Plan a day where you talk to your partner or you work on, these things, and you always plan time in a day. So I love that. Like Saturdays between, whatever this time and
Yeah.
that time, I'm going to do my stress uh, workout. But
Yep. That was a lot of times when I was doing I was doing book work, stuff like that. I was just trying to fit it into the week and everything else, and it was just making me more stressed out. So it was like Saturday, I'll do that. Just kind of kept pushing everything to Saturday.
yeah,
And it worked for a while, and then I got tired doing that. So I just went back to old ways, but it did work. So
hey, well, yeah. I mean, you use things while they work, and that makes
yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that. So with that, that kind of leads me to one of my favorite stories, which was one of the worst things that I think, you probably experienced in maybe the last year. I'm not sure, but
Yeah, it's probably there.
as far as work goes, so um, so Brody had agreed to put up it's about a 6 foot, maybe a little bit taller, 6 foot, concrete block retaining wall in front of an existing steel retaining wall that I had. And it was, everybody was like, there wasn't anyone else who would touch it. Number one, I couldn't get a contractor to show up. Number two, Brody was the only one that showed up, and he was also the only one that agreed to do it. So once, we did a number of projects, the wall was only one part of the whole thing, but he and his helper and maybe a couple of helpers he had at one time were putting this thing
Yeah.
together. And I remember being, going out and checking on them, and they only had like one more wheelbarrow of rock to pour into this wall. Otherwise, it was complete. And I came back inside, and I was getting a drink or something, and I heard something, but it wasn't like anything massive. I just like, it kind of caught my attention. I kind of turned around, and I looked, and I noticed that I didn't see the wall, and I didn't see Brody or his helpers. And I was like, oh shit. And I ran out the door because I thought they went over the wall. And the wall was gone and they weren't there. And I thought the worst had happened. I thought they went over the wall. Then I turned to the left and there's Brody, and his guy over there, and they're just beside themselves. Just I mean, can you explain like how what happened and how you felt there?
Man, that was bad. Like, I mean, the worst thing you could imagine happening. I mean, it was literally the worst thing that could have happened. Like that could have happened. It was just it was like a huge like sinking feeling. It was like, it. It was like, well, there that it that was another one of those things. It was just like this huge, like it was. I don't know. I can't even really describe it. Really, it was kind of, I guess, indescribable. But yeah, that was a huge deal. It definitely that took a hit on me and Caden both. It was really tough to come back from, but I made it a huge priority to make sure I did. But yeah, it was tough for sure.
I remember that day you were almost speechless, and you guys couldn't apologize enough, and how literally, I forget the word you actually used, but it basically described distraught. I mean, just how hard it hit, because it was like the hardest thing. I think at the time you said it was like the hardest thing you'd ever done, the most labor that you'd poured into any one thing,
Yeah,
and it
yeah,
just crumbled in front of us. And for the people that don't know, you'll see in the pictures, the water is only like 6 feet away from where the wall was, so at
yeah.
least half of the wall fell into the water. And it was just, I've got a picture of blocks just all piled up and crumbled. And I can't tell you how, I mean, as the owner, you'd think maybe I'd be pissed off, but I think I was too much in shock and I was just like, holy shit, these guys got hurt. They fell in the water with these blocks. What the hell happened? So I can't tell you how relieved I was just to find out that they were safe up here on
Yeah.
the side
Yeah.
and I could talk to them and that they weren't injured and they were okay. So, just my own personal wisdom was like, you know what, let's just take a break. You guys just need to go home and
Yep.
like chill, let this like, go away for a while and then we'll figure it out. And I'm sitting here thinking in the back of my head, it's going to take like 3 weeks to get this thing back together. And then I wake up the next morning to like some noise. And it's like 5 o'clock in the morning, still dark
Yeah.
out. And you're like, so like clunk, clack, clack, clunk, clunk, clack, like rocks like falling on each other. And I look through the window and there's Brody working in barely any freaking light at 5 o'clock in the morning, like pulling rocks out of the pile. I was wow, that was impressive. So I'm gonna like jump ahead just really quick. Within 13 hours, he had the entire mess cleaned up. Now, he didn't have the wall built, but he had the entire mess that was created by the fallen wall. And he showed up by himself that day with his bare hands and a shovel. And
Yep.
something I thought that was going to take 2 or 3 weeks to clean up was cleaned up in that one day. Now, he had to be absolutely exhausted, had to be dead to the world after that. But I don't know. Was there some relief? I mean, what drove you to come back? Because I was concerned that you were even going to come back after that.
Yeah. So that was one of those things where it was like there's in my mind there was nothing else I could do. It was that was the only thing. I was only focused on that. That was the only thing I was focused on. I told Caden to stay home. It wasn't his problem to deal with. Told him to stay home. I didn't want him getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I just something had to be done about it. It needed to be done quick because I didn't want to deal with it for that long. So I was already scheduling and everything else, so it had to be done. So I just had to get it done. So I think we had it back up in probably was a week.
It was a week. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a week.
Yeah.
Yep. And
Super, yeah. Super impressive. And I
had to
think,
do it. So
yeah, yeah, that pretty much sealed the deal for me. Like, but we had to do a video like this because number one, I don't know how many people would have just skated. I mean, it's not like you weren't going to get paid a good amount of money, but
yeah,
was it worth it to do it all over again and to have to dig out? You didn't have to dig out the first time. And one thing that you kind of mentioned there, getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, the thing that we haven't mentioned is how long of a drive was it to get to my place for you?
roughly an hour.
Yeah, so an hour each way to get here, and to be here at 5 o'clock in the morning already, like throwing rocks, I was blown away, and I was blown away with the commitment to put it back up. It's still standing today. They got some ideas, some pointers, and they basically over-engineered it. They found out, had some other folks come in and check things out, and there was nothing wrong with the way that it was put in, but they, added some over-engineering back into it to keep it from happening again. And I watched them put it back up, and was super impressed, and it's still standing. Still here right now, and it's gorgeous compared to what it used to look like. So, huge kudos to you for having the wherewithal to decide to come back and keep it going. And I know it delayed your schedule by at least a week, but you stuck with it. So that's
Yeah, that was a huge thing.
yeah.
Like I said, getting it done. In my mind, there wasn't really another option. So, like you said, I didn't even not coming back was never like a thing that even crossed my mind. But like after you said it, I was like, there's a lot of people that would have done that because I mean it's 100% possible. I had no money from you. I had no nothing. So I mean it was 100% possible. But I've just been raised. That's not you can't do that to people. So
I totally respect that. Yeah.
never even crossed my mind.
Well, and if I remember right, you told me, that morning that you had slept all night. You couldn't.
Yeah, no.
So not only, and then I get it, I totally understand, if you're conscientious enough to be concerned about it, that you'd be up all night, but you were up all day working on it, finishing the wall to the 99th percent, didn't sleep all night, and then came back and spent 13 hours by yourself cleaning up the wall. I mean, superhuman feat as far as
It,
I'm concerned. So,
it was 85,000 pounds
yes.
of stuff.
Yeah, well, and even in one thing, there'll be I don't know if I should put up the pictures, but there was some block retrieval from the water that had to
Oh,
be done.
that was fun. That was a good time.
That was pretty awesome.
That
Uh,
was relieving just because it was at the end.
right, right. No, so I think one of the things that I wanted to bring to forefront in this video is just that kind of commitment, that kind of entrepreneurial spirit, the ability just to go to work with a shovel and build. I mean, in a few years, something that most people think can't be done. You know, they don't know how to do it. I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. It's too complicated. I don't have enough money to start a business. So,
Yeah.
what do you say to that? I know you and I have had conversations about people who talk about
Uh,
having enough money.
yeah, I think it's I've been kind of harsh about it just because I think it's a worthless argument. Um, I've heard it so many times, well, we don't have the knowledge you do. We don't, nobody in my family is a carpenter. Not a single person in my family is a carpenter. They're all laborers. They all pour concrete and do blacktop. I do concrete if I absolutely have to. It's that it's not in my family. I don't have a skill base for it. Um, it's all just been self-driven, self-decided on, and I mean, it didn't take long really once I decided that I liked doing carpentry to get the tools I needed to do it. Um, I mean, it was all like I said, it was all came from a shovel. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what started it.
Did you have any capital besides the money that you earned from working the shovel and lawnmower?
I mean, I used some of my dad's tools, but that's about it. If I needed something, he had it. I used it. If he didn't have it, I went and bought it.
Okay.
Now I have is my own. But I mean, none of it was anything I couldn't afford. It was just there's no point in me buying it if it's sitting at the house not being ever used.
Absolutely. But it's
Uh,
not like you got like somebody gave you $25,000 to go start a business,
yeah,
right? You didn't
no,
do
no.
it alone.
I don't even have $25,000 worth of stuff
Yeah.
for business. I drive two junky pickup trucks. I don't not because I have to, but there's no point for me not to. Um, and then I've got my DeWalt toolbox that's probably got $800 in it. That's about it. Some shovels, a wheelbarrow. I mean, I at most if somebody came and took everything I have, I'd have a $10,000 insurance claim.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
that just goes back to the fact that it's all boiled down to it's not that I can't get the stuff; it's I don't need the stuff, so I
Oh,
don't I don't
well,
have
that
it.
I think that's a good point too. I mean, not to go buying into infrastructures and things that you don't need. Um,
A lot of depreciating assets are things that are huge with people that are my age, and I don't see a point in it. So I
right.
have never haven't went for it except for I mean I did buy my Camaro when I was 18. Initially thinking it might be a depreciating asset, and then I sold it for 7,000 more than I paid for it. So I made almost 100% on that. So
Nice. Nice.
yeah, I'm like, well, that's not bad.
Yeah. Well, so I know that you didn't get like direct information from like maybe carpenters in your family and that, but do you have any specific events, actions, or mentors that you can like correlate, who you've become with? Like, is there anybody that you like look up to or studied or followed or emulated?
Not really. As much as I like to say there is, there's really not. I've taken a very really relaxed approach to doing everything. Like I don't really if I don't know how to do something, I look it up. It's kind of how I've always went with it. I can figure it out after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's not really been any like huge motivators or things I've really looked into that much. Like I said, I don't look at projections. I don't look at a lot of that stuff. I mean, I do if I'm buying stocks and stuff, but I don't look at that for my own personal business. I just work. That's kind of
Just
I kind of
yeah,
treat it like a job. I treat it like I work for somebody else. I pay myself differently and everything else, but I treat it like a job essentially.
Yeah. So one of the things that I struggle with are having so many things to do and then how to, organize. Like I'm good at prioritizing, but I'm way better at working for someone who has a vision. Like somebody has a vision and they tell me this is what they want. I can go knock out like the
Yep.
pieces like nothing and have a huge success. When I'm on my own though, it's like, oh, I've got these hundreds of things that I could do and like, tick, 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 and it doesn't like
Yep.
formulate as quickly. How do you organize? I mean, maybe it's I don't know. I don't want to say more simple, but how do you prioritize since you're not working for somebody to work like you are working for someone?
Um, so I think it's just kind of come down to really just again just really looking at it in a really relaxed way. Um, that's been a huge thing is really just trying to be relaxed about everything. Again, sometimes I'm a little too relaxed, but it's just kind of like I don't know. I try not to overthink things. I try not to really look into it too much. If it's no different if I am working for myself or if I'm working for somebody. There's a task that needs to be done, it gets done. I'm the same way if I do work for somebody though. I mean, if I do work for somebody, I'm not standing around letting you pay me. If
Right.
there's something done, I'll do it. If there's not, I'll go home. There's no point in being, standing around and getting paid for doing nothing. So that's kind of part of it.
That's huge.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's just kind of a it's a drive. And one thing that personally lately I've been getting back into is, fitness again. I was huge into it during, wrestling season and everything else in high school. Uh, Last winter I was into it pretty good, but then when I started working a bunch, I just kind of quit. I started doing that again, but that's kind of like a 9 o'clock at night. Like I got to go to the gym kind of deal.
Right. Right.
EMT class, whatever. Go to the gym, work out, home by 11, go to bed, wake up the next day and go to work. But it's just kind of come down to it's not so much like I just try to look forward to doing things, I guess, whether I want to or not. I just try to make it seem like a positive thing and
How do
go
you do,
after.
how do you do that?
Like the gym kind of came naturally. Like it's kind of came as a huge stress reliever. Kind of I go in there, listen to music, disconnect from everything else, whatever, do my thing. Work is a whole different topic. A lot of the times it's just kind of like I'm looking forward to 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. If I have class that night, kind of trying to look forward to having to leave a little bit early so I can go study, and which again sounds ridiculous, having to leave early to go to work to go to study, but that's something to look forward to, I guess. Again, people at the department make it a really great environment, so I don't really have much of a problem going and doing that.
Nice.
It's been huge, but
Well, cool. Well, I mean, I think one of the things I just heard today from a guy named Pat Hyvan from Go Abundance was he's like a lot of W-2 guys that try to get into business for themselves. They focus on um, like operations and division and what it's going to look like. And he's like, all what really people need to worry about is making the sale, taking the action, doing the thing, and then filling in the infrastructure as it's needed. Not worry about it beforehand. And it sounds to me like that's a natural entrepreneurial trait and one that you have where you just know I'm not going to worry about all the stuff that doesn't matter right now. I'm just going to do the work.
yeah, like people ask why kids here, why I don't have, why I don't have a 2500, why I don't have a dump trailer, why I don't have all this. I don't need any of that. It's could I make money if I had a skid steer? Yes. Can I make money with the tools I have now? Yes. So I'm just gonna stick with the tools I have now and not go spend, $50,000 on a nice skid steer. There's just no reason. And I think that's what a lot of people get wrapped up in is, like startup costs and everything else. If you look at startup costs of any business, it's well over $100,000 most of the time. And yeah, that's the case, but that's for everything. You don't need everything to start. You know,
Right.
uh,
Yeah.
you just don't. It's there's a huge demand for contractors right now everywhere. If you show up and you give them a bid, most of the time you'll get the job.
That's how you
I
get this job because you're the
Yeah,
guy.
yeah. I mean, I've given people some ridiculous numbers, and because they're jobs I don't want to do, and they
Right.
accept the. I'm like I bid a retaining wall, and I bid it for like I think it was $80 a square foot, like ridiculous number, absolutely ridiculous number, and it was just because I didn't want to do it, and they were like, "All right, when can you start?" And I was like, "What?" So I did it. I didn't charge them that. I cut it back to reasonable price, but I told them I was like, I I didn't want to do this. It's like I didn't want to do this job at all. That's why I said that. And they're like, "Well, you're the only person that came." So I was like, "Well, I guess that's fair." But
Well, it's true, and it's true. That's the way it's been. I mean, I don't know if things are going to be changing now that the housing market's slowing down, but
yeah,
it's been over the past year or so. So
yep.
kudos to you guys, the guys like you who are taking advantage of it. But so I don't keep you all night. Just got a few more questions. What are your, like your future plans? You've kind of talked about your investments and growth. But like, where do you see yourself like in 5 years? Do you even have a 5 year plan? What do do you feel like what are you going to
I
contribute?
have like a 2 year plan, like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mentioned
2 year
earlier.
plan.
Like
Yeah,
it's really short term. I mean, I've department is really my main goal right now. Is getting a pension has been a huge thing. And getting a pension doing something I enjoy as much as I do would be huge. Um, and that's a realistic goal. I mean, it's 100% possible. If I get my medic, I can go anywhere in the country and have a job tomorrow, essentially. I mean, not because I'm not 21, but once I'm 21, I can get a job any day I want, as a medic and a firefighter. And that's a pension job. It's a union job. It's pretty, pretty simple after that. I'll probably keep doing some of my business stuff if I have time. If I don't have time, I won't. But it's a 24 on, 48 off kind of deal, so I don't expect to not have time really. Um, do that for a while. I plan on keeping paying into my uh, Roth account. I'm gonna open a traditional IRA here in probably a couple months and pay that off in full. As much as I can every year, just so that when I do get to closer retirement age, I don't have anything to worry about, kind of deal.
right.
Um,
Well, that's
having pension and then all your other stuff would be great. So it's kind of like it's a 2 year plan, but it's for a lifetime kind of deal. So
yeah. No, I think it's awesome. And one of the things that you mentioned that you may or may not, continue to do the construction jobs, but I remember when you and I were talking before, you're like, yeah, if I do that, I'd maybe just do one or two to where I forget the number you said.
three
But like,
thousand a month is kind
yeah,
of the
3,000.
starter.
That's more than a lot of people who just have one regular job make in a month. And you're
Yeah,
like,
it's
I'll just have this side job where I just do one construction job on this.
yeah. I mean, it's super easily obtainable.
Huge.
Some people think that's an unrealistic number, but I mean that's it's easy. It's super super simple. Um, Jobs like that they're all over the place, and it's something people can pick up anytime they want, but people like to say they don't have time to do it, and it's they do. They just don't want to have time to do it, so they don't.
Right. Well, it's physical labor. I mean, what you're talking about and what I've seen.
Yeah,
But I mean, that is huge, and that's one of the reasons that I've got you on here. With that, what kind, is there any piece of advice that you would offer to those who are starting out or want to start out in business for themselves? Different.
it's really just going and doing it. I mean, there's a lot of things I've thought about starting and stuff, and I haven't because I have other things going on right now. But if I didn't have anything else going on right now, I would probably have something else going on. It's just one of those things you just gotta go do it. Really, it's not that hard. It's not. It's overcomplicated if you look up on Google how to start a business. There's a whole big list, and it's not that big. You get your name, get your LLC, and go do what you want to do. That was as simple as it was for me. I installed QuickBooks, paid for that, paid for my LLC. That was it. Started doing what I wanted to do, and kind of started kind of trying to, I guess, create the life I want to have eventually. So it's really been a pretty easy process. Nothing really was as complicated as I thought it would be. So really, just going and doing it is a huge thing.
That's impressive, man. Is there anything that you found that, what I would call success in business. I'm not saying, hey, you've become a millionaire, but you're successful
Yeah.
doing what you want to do. Is there anything that you feel is not, widely accepted by most people? Something that you found that like, most people think it's this way, but it's actually, different.
Um, I guess. Well, and two, I guess another thing I have going for me is I don't have to have healthcare, which was one of the things that I've talked about a lot. Is that I don't have to worry about that. That's really great.
And
That's
why is
I
that?
want to get an apartment. Well, because I'm still on my parents.
Gotcha.
If I can do that, so like whatever, like whenever it is. But I should be on through a department and stuff, which I do have it through a department, but it's nothing crazy. I think it basically covers if I get an ambulance, they pay for it.
Right.
But that's because they're taking me in anyway. So but so that's been a huge thing. But again, just with expenses, everybody thinks there's so many expenses. There's really not. I mean, if you're wanting to start up somewhere where you have to rent, you have to do this and all that stuff, and then yeah, you're gonna run into some problems. But for me, I operate out of my bedroom.
Right.
I mean, I send emails on my phone, and all my tools are in the bed of my truck, and that's it. That's how I operate. So don't, I guess, just not going for anything too complicated, and grow to where you want to be. Really, is a huge thing, and just not being overwhelmed. I thought it was going to be overwhelming at the beginning, and it is at times, but most of the time it's not.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. So simple and effective.
Yeah, 100%. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't go for something that's not going to make you money too. Is a huge thing. I mean, people get these business ideas, and it's kind of like, well, it'll get me money in the long term. Well, I mean, that's great if you have money now. If you don't have money now, that doesn't help you.
Right.
So, yeah, just really, again, like you said, simple and effective. Don't spend too much money to make not that much money. There's no point. So,
Right. I love it.
couple
Love it.
bucks, go do something you want to do.
Yeah. No, man, I incredibly appreciate you taking the time to be on here. Um,
Uh,
it sounds like you may or may not want more jobs, and this video could be up forever, but is there any place that people can find you?
my Facebook page is really the best way to communicate with me. Send me a message on there.
Is that
It's up
under Blue
Creek.
Creek?
Yep.
Yeah, Blue Creek Construction. I'll put that
Yep.
in the notes.
It might be Blue Creek LLC.
I think it is LLC. I think that's
Yeah.
how I found you. It was just like a random Facebook ad that popped up, and
Yep.
that's how I found you. Yeah. So awesome.
Yep.
I'll put that in there. Again, any last words before we close out?
I don't think so. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate the work you did, and I'll put those pictures on along with this video.
Okay.
Thanks again, and always reach out if you need something. But otherwise,
Will do.
sure. Have a
All
good
right.
one.
Have a good one. I appreciate it.
All right, take care. See ya.
Yep. See ya.